Good morning, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm your host, CK. And as we speak, there has been a lot of initiative. A lot of countries are participating with the United States. Also, other countries like Russia, China, and India having their own plan to go to moon. And why there is such a big race? Of course, the race is about the resources. Now, scientists have found that the titanium and helium-3. These are the two major elements which are very easily available on the surface of the moon. And helium-3 can be used for future fusion reactors, which is completely safe. Unlike any other fuel for the fusion reactor, helium-3 is considered to be very safe. However, there is no helium-3 in large quantity found on Earth, and it is found on the surface of the moon. So there is a race. I mean, it is required for the future energy requirements. At the same time, titanium is a wonder metal. It is many times stronger than steel, and it is almost 2 to 3 times lighter than steel. Titanium is a wonder metal which is used for aviation. Titanium is also required in large quantity for our construction of space stations, because you need stronger material, but it has to be lightweight. Titanium fits the bill. However, on Earth, it is rather rare. There are only few countries who have sort of monopolized the availability of titanium. The country that has more titanium will have better aviation and rocket industry. Therefore, it is not available on Earth. Therefore, it has to be accessed from elsewhere. Because we need to build spacecrafts, we need to go to Mars, we need to go to Moon, we need to go to other outer solar system planets, and we need very large spacecraft, and also uh, quite a few number of spacecraft. So for all of that, requirement need that the humans have, we need a lot of titanium, and fortunately, titanium is abundant on the surface of the moon, and it's very good quality as well. So we will discuss whether the titanium is really accessible, because there is a race going on, and the race has to happen because of certain resources. Otherwise, what is there on the moon? There is no atmosphere, there is no oxygen, there is no food. You will have to sacrifice all of that and go for what? There has to be some requirement, right? So as of now, logically, it looks like helium-3 and titanium, and these are the driving force for the world to compete and set up the moon colony quickly. Now, all the major space agencies have already given their deadlines, and it is not very far off. Like just couple of years from now, we will see a permanent colony on the surface of the moon. But the big question is titanium really accessible? Let's find out. Let's first understand how abundant is titanium. Well, believe it or not, even though titanium is quite rare on the surface of the Earth, it is the ninth most abundant element in the entire universe. For some reason, Earth is not having its fair share of titanium. We don't know why it is like that, because there are many theories related to formation of the Earth, why Earth did not get titanium, even though this material is the ninth most abundant element in the entire universe. Nevertheless, we have a neighbor. The closest neighbor is Moon, and that has very high amount of titanium, and you don't have to even mine it. I mean, you don't have to drill deeper. The regular soil on the surface of the moon is quite rich in titanium, and you can process the regolith to get the titanium out. And there are other materials that you can get out from the lunar soil, which is also known as lunar regolith, and therefore it is quite abundant. So the first point is the titanium accessible? I mean, we know that it is accessible on the moon, so it is, at least it is there for us to start thinking. And all the space agencies, all the major countries are thinking of getting access to that titanium, which is found very easily on the surface of the moon. And you can actually, if you have the technology, you can start mining, you can start purifying titanium, you can start manufacturing your spacecrafts on the surface of the moon itself, if you can access it. So to answer the first question, is it there? Of course it is there. It is quite abundant on the surface of the moon. Let's look at what is the other point that we must consider. That is, compare accessibility to titanium with the titanium mines on the surface of the earth. There are certain countries which are quite rich in titanium and they have sort of monopoly. Some countries are able to mine titanium ore in their country. However, processing titanium is quite tough. It's quite tough, and it is not easy to process, because titanium is, as I said, is quite hard, and you have to melt it, you have to purify it. It requires a very difficult process to purify titanium, and therefore it's a very small industry. Only certain countries have the know-how, technology to purify titanium, to take out the titanium from the ore. And therefore there is a mine, the largest mine on the surface of the earth is known as Telnet mine. It's in Norway, which is producing huge amount of titanium ore, and then shipping it to factories around the world wherever there are technologies to purify titanium. And if you look at the mine itself, the largest mine on earth, it is very, very small compared to the titanium resources that are available on the surface of the moon. So definitely, whatever titanium we have, it's in a very limited quantity. Even the largest mine on the surface of the earth is minuscule, a very small mine as compared to the titanium which is available on the surface of the moon. So definitely availability is there. The titanium is just lying on the surface for us to start thinking how we can solve the problem of reaching the moon and start mining it on the surface of the moon. So if you compare this, definitely moon is a very big resource when it comes to titanium. Let's look at the other points. Well, titanium exists in two varieties in the nature. One is it's known as ilmenite, which is sort of impure version of titanium. It requires a lot of effort to purify ilmenite to get pure titanium, because for our aircrafts, for our spacecrafts, we would need pure titanium, and so that you can start building. So ilmenite is actually found in most of the earth mine, and therefore if you dig a ton of ilmenite, a ton of ilmenite ore will cost you something like $500, right? But purified titanium may cost, from that particular 1 ton ilmenite will cost you $10,000. There is so much difference, because the process of getting the titanium out from ilmenite, it's very laborious, it's very lengthy, and it takes a lot of effort, energy, time, huge lot of processes, raw material, all kinds of things, and that is why titanium becomes quite expensive. Therefore, titanium is not used in many industries. In fact, there is a scope to use titanium everywhere. You want to not only construct your aircraft, but you would like to construct your cars also, to make them lighter and stronger. But titanium is not available in abundant first, and whatever we have is very expensive, because after purification it becomes quite expensive. However, the other form of titanium which exists in raw form in nature is the titanium oxide, TiO2. TiO2 is another form, and unfortunately we have very little TiO2 on the surface of the earth. However, if titanium oxide is processed for producing titanium, then the raw material is oxygen, as the name suggests, and you get two byproducts: pure titanium and oxygen, right? So this is a better form of titanium ore. Unfortunately, very rare on the surface of earth. Hardly any good quantity available on the earth. Therefore, the factories, titanium producing factories on earth, are forced to build their processes around purifying ilmenite and then producing expensive titanium. Let's look at this and compare this on the surface of the moon. As per the Apollo mission test that was conducted about 40 years back, they have confirmed that nearly 20% of the titanium is in the form of TiO2. Right, a huge quantity. First of all, on the surface of the moon, there is huge quantity. There is ilmenite on the surface of the moon. So we have the know-how, technology to replicate and use our earth-bound factories. If we can take them there, we can start production of titanium using ilmenite. At the same time, the titanium oxide is nearly 20%. So we can have a more efficient factory processing titanium oxide and generating oxygen as well as pure titanium. Now, if we are able to do this on the surface of the moon, there are huge benefits. We get titanium in the pure form much quicker than processing ilmenite, and we can use that titanium to build our moon colony, construct houses, and also huge starships, so that we can explore further into the space. And we get oxygen. Using this oxygen, we can generate water and atmosphere for us. So there are a lot of benefits of processing the titanium oxide which is found on the surface of the moon. So far story looks pretty positive. It looks quite exciting, and it's a good enough reason for us to start planning how we can access the titanium which is locked up on the surface of the moon. Maybe there are huge titanium resources deep inside the moon. We need to explore that. All right, let's move on. And as I already said, that titanium refinement produce oxygen. So you get your excellent building material, and you also get the life-giving oxygen, using which you can breathe, you can grow your food, you can actually generate water. Oxygen can also become an oxidizer for your rockets. So if you are planning to fuel your rockets on the surface of the moon, there is no oxygen, there is no atmosphere on the surface of the moon. So you would need to process titanium oxide to get the oxygen, and then it's a free oxidizer, free fuel for your rockets for future mission. So it may make more sense to start producing titanium so that you can get oxygen for free on the surface of the moon, and you start filling that oxygen into your starships, start fueling them. So a lot of advantages of going to the moon for processing titanium. Let's move on to the last point. How this all will happen? Is this practical? Well, let's look at the titanium excavators that we have. To basically start excavating the huge amount of titanium on the surface of the moon, we would need as much as our current capacity. We would need about something like 11 to 14 excavators, huge excavators, which are made by large manufacturing engineering companies like Caterpillar, etc. These are truck sized buckets they have. Now if you just compare these large excavators just to mimic the current production of titanium, then we have to carry all these excavators to the surface of the moon, which is roughly about 3,000 tons of payload. To carry 3,000 tons of payload, just to carry the excavators, forget about other machinery, etc. These excavators basically run on diesel on Earth, but We cannot take diesel on the surface of the moon. We would need to power them using some sort of solar power or battery. So that is additional. So let's look at the excavator weight itself. That is something like 3,000 tons. To carry 3,000 tons, all the equipment to moon, we would need at least 40 to 50 large rocket flights just to carry the excavators. And you know how much the rocket flight, each rocket flight to moon cost, right? So, start digging titanium, start producing titanium on the surface of the moon looks like rather expensive affair. It needs huge planning. It's a huge project. It's a project for the earthbound, not one country. It is a project, it's a collective project. Carrying so much equipment on the surface of the moon, spending so much money, eroding the GDPs of the nation. It requires a very, very meticulous study, meticulous planning, years of planning to carry all this equipment on the surface of the moon, so that we can start filling our removing our hunger for titanium, which is also a big need for the human mankind. And then there are other ancillary equipment required, like battery, solar cells, to power these excavators. That is all additional. Housing for people who will be manning this excavator. Then once you're able to excavate all this, the factory to produce titanium. So that is additional weight. So huge amount of initial investment is required. A huge amount of space travel is required. Transfer of technology and machinery from Earth to surface of the moon if we want to produce the titanium on the surface of the moon. So it's a huge project. Logistically, it is going to take many space flight, many years to start building all of this. Now we don't see this happening at least in next 10 years. So when it comes to accessibility, the question is that, is it accessible? Of course it is accessible. However, is it practical? So it doesn't look like that it is too practical unless we change our methods of producing metal from ore, or we come up with some new technology. So development, R&D is already going on, but as of now, in next 10 years, in the near visible horizon, we don't see this kind of production of titanium starting very soon on the surface of the moon, simply because logistically it's a nightmare. But even if we are able to bring all the equipment, let's say if in next 2 decades, if we are able to bring some equipment on the surface of the moon, then it will not start from day one, because the capacity planning has to be there, right? So if we are able to gather all machinery, people, factory, etc., moon colony, power situation, if we are able to solve it, how much time it will take for these factories to start producing titanium equal to what we are producing on the surface of the earth today. Now from start to achieve this level, it may take 10 years to scale, right? Because machineries will have to start kicking in. They have to start looking at how much they can produce, how much expansion they will have to do. So it is a project which is quite far off. I mean, if you just look at it, it is quite far off from reality. However, if we talk about theory, mining of titanium is very much possible. There is a lot of titanium waiting to be harnessed, to be excavated on the surface of the moon. But to plan all of these things will take a lot of time, at least 2 to 3 decades easily, to start accessing the titanium that we have on the moon. And it is not going to start very soon. So right now we are talking about going to the moon for harnessing various resources, but for these resources to come practical and available, it will take at least 30 to 40 years from today. So friends, this is what I feel, that there is a space race going on. There is a whole lot of excitement, but the things are quite far off, things are moving very slowly. So this is what I feel. Friends, what do you think about this? Uh, do we continue to spend our money today while going to the moon? We know that we have to become spacefaring species. We have to start establishing our base in different on different planets. But what do you think? Do you think it's practical? I would like to know from you. Friends, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.